So in the 90s, Charles Barkley, this famous professional basketball player, had this Nike advertisement. And Charles' Nike advertisement, he dunks this basketball and then looks at the camera and says, "I ain't no role model." And the idea being, if you're a kid and you're idolizing some crazy, NBA basketball player who behaves wildly and erratically, then, that's your problem, not my problem. And so one day, around the time that advertisement comes out, a reporter is in the Houston Rockets locker room after a game and is interviewing Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem Olajuwon was the center for the Houston Rockets. And said, and this reporter asked Hakeem Olajuwon, "Do you think it's okay if, kids look up to you as a role model?" And Hakeem Olajuwon says, "Sure, I think that's great." And the reporter says, "Well, Charles Barkley says that kids shouldn't look up to, basketball players as role models." And Hakeem Olajuwon smiled and said, "That's because Charles is a different person in public than he is in private. Charles is a perfectly calm, polite, normal person in private behind closed doors. But that's not the sort of act he puts on in public. So Charles has all this anxiety about whether he's public Charles or private Charles in any given instance and has to think about what that means for whatever he's saying. I'm the same person in public as I am in private, so if people want to, think of me as a role model, then that's great. I'm not going to change my behavior in any circumstance anyway." And I tell that to my managers and leaders at Twitter, even my C-level executives, because there's a tendency for people in management positions, again, especially for new project managers and new product managers both, to think, I'm supposed to have the answers because I'm the manager. It's not your job as a manager to be omniscient. And I have to behave differently now that I'm a manager and I'm not regular Joe, I'm manager Joe. You think people are fooled, they're not fooled. The thing I used to tell maybe my directors and VPs most of the time when they would get up in front of the company and spin them on some answer is, do you think people believe that? Do you think they're fooled? They're not fooled, they're smart. They see right through that. And that just creates misery for you and your team when you're trying to act like a different person and be a different person as a leader. And I'm going to give you a Coach Campbell, Bill Campbell quote that he stood in front of a bunch of my leadership team and said specifically that I wrote down. And you can see, there are great YouTube clips of Bill, by the way, being interviewed by Costolo that you can go find on YouTube. And he talks all about his leadership philosophy at much longer length than I will here. And Bill says, "Leadership is something that evolves as a result of management excellence. How do you bring people around and help them flourish in your environment? It's not by being a dictator. It's not by telling them what to do. It's by making sure they feel valued by being in the room with you. Listen, pay attention. This is what great managers do." And this next line is one of my favorite quotes of his. "Your title makes you a manager. Your team decides if you're a leader, not you."